Art Rice, and today I want to have a discussion on a topic that is considered very controversial. And if you know me, you will know that I do not shy away from controversial subjects. Now, all my life, from since I can remember, I have always been extremely interested in the cosmos. I have probably read almost everything about space, the sun, the moon, the planets, and I've had telescopes and even have a telescope now. Now, I love to spend time looking into the heavens and just looking at the wonder and the beauty of God's creation. And over time, I have collected pictures from requests sent to NASA, as well as downloading pictures from the different space missions, both manned and unmanned. I have hundreds of pictures of the sun, the planets, of the solar system, as well as the rover pictures sent from the moon and Mars. To me, it's just a fascinating subject that I have as a hobby. Of course, the Bible is first and foremost, and I frame my hobby within the context of the scriptures. But what happens when we discover something that, according to the best scientific minds, shouldn't be there? What do we do about it? And how do we fit it in with the scripture? And this is what I want to discuss. Okay, this is from the Curiosity rover or the Mars Science Laboratory. The designation for this is MSL 1351. Now, this is the gigapan, or part of it actually, of another part of Gale Crater. And there's really all kinds of really anomalous stuff all over the place here. But as I was just kind of just going through it, and when I go through these photographs, I'm not looking necessarily for something out of place. It's just that when I see it, I will zoom in on it and see what I can glean from what I'm seeing. Now, this one here really blew me away. I'm did not expect to see it. And in fact, when I saw what I saw, I wasn't actually looking. I saw something else. And then when I saw this, I had to push away from the laptop and say, wait a minute, what am I looking at here? I had to literally try to wrap my head around this because what we've been told is Mars is a lifeless planet. And if it one time had life, it was billions of years ago, and it was probably only microbes. That's what they tell us. So I call this the coup de grace. So I've put in a yellow around the area that I'm talking about here. So I'm going to zoom in. Now, what I was looking at was this right here. Was this, and then you have, it looks like a mortar and pestle that you would use in a laboratory or something like that. And that's what that looked like to me. And I saw that as I was scanning through, going from left to right. And then I found this. And I'm thinking, what in the world is that? So I was able to, at the website, actually be able to zoom in closer. So I'm going to show you what I found. The same thing. Just one second. I did a screenshot of it because I really couldn't believe what I was seeing. And then I'm going to take you to the actual picture from the Curiosity rover of what the actual picture, because the Gigapan, like I said, it's a series of pictures that they stitch together to make a complete picture, panoramic picture. The camera goes from left to right or right to left or up to down, however it does, but it takes a series of pictures, then they put all the pictures together to make a complete picture. Let's see. My laptop's been running slow. We'll try it one more time. There we go. Now, what I did was I was on the same Gigapan and I zoomed in and then took a screenshot, push my print screen to give me a picture of what I was looking at. And we're about to see what it is. As soon as it comes up. Again, this is MSL Mike Sierra Lima dash 1351. You scroll down to the Mastcam, MASTCAM, and there you will see it. You see what I'm saying? This was the object that I was looking at. And then I saw this. Right here. It's a snake. You can see the two eyes, the front, where the front of the face is. You can see part of the body here, the body there, and the body there. What we have is a serpent. What we have over here is another serpent. This one's darker in color. He's got either his face turned back the other way, and you can see how it coils down and around and back this way. So we have two serpents, one looking right at the rover, and they try to tell me that Mars doesn't have any life. When I saw this, I literally had to back away because I had to put this into perspective. So let's come out of that. And now I'm going to take you to the original photograph from the mass cam, from the actual Jet Propulsion Laboratory website. You type in Curiosity or Mars Laboratories, Mars Science Laboratory, and this is what you're going to, and then scroll down to Mastcam. The Mastcam is the one that sits up top of a pole above the rover itself. And this will be the actual, this is the actual photograph from where it came from. This is the raw image. NASA loves to take these images and move them around, try to make something that's three-dimensional into two-dimensional, and to kind of hide what you're looking at. It's like they're afraid you might discover something. But all of this, again, can be placed in the context of Scripture. So we're going to get into that as soon as it comes up. All right. Here's the same picture of the same area. So let's zoom in. It's up here in this left-hand corner. Again, you have that same picture. Now I can take this just by using the basic tools that come with the laptop, no fancy Photoshop or anything like that. Come on. There we go. Now it's funny that NASA only gives you JPEGs. They have the camera on this thing can look miles, and you should be able to zoom in and to be able to basically see a bug on a rock from miles away. So, but they're only giving out the JPEGs, which are not the really high resolution. But here we go. Let's look at it again. So I'm going to zoom back in over on this spot. Now you can see the serpents. You can see the mortar and pestle right here. Now I'm going to touch on here where it says enhance the photo. This will basically give me a color correction. And there we go. Two serpents. And it looks like somebody put a mortar and pestle back here. So I don't know what NASA can say about this. Are they going to continue with this diatribe? Either we are on Mars or we're not. And if we're on Mars, then someone needs to explain to me this and the other anomalies that I have found. So this is what I wanted to show you, and now we're going to go into the scripture about this. And what does it mean? If this is found on Mars, and we got other things on the moon and the other planets and their moons in the solar system, what does it mean? Why are they there? And what does it mean later on? So let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and talk about that. Okay, well, before we get to the scripture, there is one more that I wanted to show you. And I was looking at this The gigapan on this is MSL again, Mars Science Laboratory or the Curiosity rover, number 1625. In other words, this was taken on the 1625th day on Mars. And Mars day is just slightly, maybe about an hour longer than our day is. So it's roughly pretty much the same. But what I want to show you on this one is, and this is the actual website, is we're going to zoom in on this gigapan. And there was a couple of things that I noticed. I noticed this right here. You see where my cursor is? Looks like a lizard. The head, the tail, two legs, possibly one sitting out over here. Now, I found these on several places all over this rock face. So, again, but what I wanted to show you that the serpent wasn't just a one-time shot that I showed you before. Let's move over right here. We'll zoom in. The eyes here, here, the front of the face, and the body going back into the cliff face. Again, we have a serpent on Mars. But I wanted to show this to you because I wanted you to be able to see we have not just one indication of serpents, we have another. So now let's go into the scripture because we really need to discuss what's there. The scripture says, "He that answereth the matter before he heareth it, it is folly and shame unto him." Proverbs 18:13. In other words, he that has made up his mind and speaks about something he knows nothing about before he hears it, it shows his foolishness and brings him shame. The worst thing anybody can do is to categorically deny something even before they know nothing about it. It's like those that deny that dinosaurs ever lived. But these people that deny that dinosaurs ever lived have never actually been to a dig site where they are pulling them out of the ground. A few years ago, about 15 years ago, a Smithsonian Institute paleoscientist went to Glen Rose, Texas to observe the dinosaur and human footprints together in the same rock. The whole time he was there, he never looked at the prints. He refused to look down at the prints. And while he was there, he berated the archaeologists who were there for even insinuating that dinosaurs and humans were there at the same time. He left, making a fool of himself. He went to Glen Rose because the Smithsonian told him to go. He went with his mind already made up, and he spoke his prepared statements without even examining the evidence. What I have brought to you today is evidence, direct evidence from our own governmental agency called NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration. I have many, many more anomalous photos taken from our robotic probes and rovers throughout the solar system. So, how does this fit in with Scripture? I do not have issues with finding ancient ruins on Mars or the Moon or any other planet in our solar system. In fact, it only speaks of biblical proof. There is a theory called the gap theory. Now, this theory proposes that there was a pre Adamic world before God created the heavens, the heavens we see, and the earth that we now know. Now, I do not ascribe to this theory, but it could lend credence to this theory. And Evidence such as this, as I have shown you, also gives credence to those that do not follow the gap theory. I will explain. In Genesis chapter 1, we read, starting at verse 1, "In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth." And then verse 2, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters." Now, those that believe the gap theory believe that when God creates, he created perfectly and beautifully. Therefore, the earth was originally perfect. According to the gap theorists, something happened and the earth became formless and void and dark. It was during this time that it is believed by gap theorists and the non-gap theorists that the angelic creature that guarded the throne of God, a seraph, fell in pride. That angelic creature was Lucifer. In his trying to usurp the throne of God, the Lord destroys the first earth. Now, this is the gap theory. The gap theorists propose that while the first earth was there, the angels inhabited the earth and other planets within the solar system, along with various creatures that are extinct today. If this theory is true, then it would account for the destruction of civilization on the earth, as well as the moon, Mars, and other planets and their moons. God just wiped everything out and created the heaven and recreated the heaven and the earth. As I said, I do not follow the gap theory. When I read Genesis 1:1, I see a thesis statement. A thesis statement is a statement of fact. When writing a paper, such as in high school or college, in writing that paper, you have your thesis statement and you follow it with what is called the proofs in order to support your thesis. As I see Genesis 1:1, I see a thesis statement, and the rest of the chapter is the proofs of how God created the heaven and the earth. So, how does the non-gap theorist fit this evidence that I have shown you into the biblical narrative? It is my position that after man was removed from the Garden of Eden, up to the time of the flood, was when the moon, Mars, and the planets and their moons were not only visited, but colonized. When you think of the pre-flood world, what is it that you see in your mind? What kind of people were they? Were they hunters, gatherers? Were they simple folk living in a Stone Age environment? If you are thinking this way, then you are thinking with a Darwinian evolutionary mindset. Here's what Solomon says: "The thing which has been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything whereof it may be said, See, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that shall come after." Ecclesiastes 9 through 11. When you read verses 1 through 8 of this chapter, Solomon is writing about cycles: the cycle of the wind and that of the water, how they move from their place and return back to where they started. In verses 9 through 11, he's speaking about us. In Darwinian evolutionary teaching, we are told that man rose from a primitive state to where we are now, the pinnacle of civilization. Solomon didn't think so. He says that whatever is being done now was done once before. So we can conclude that we, in our high technological world, are not the first to achieve this technological revolution. It has been done before, and the memory of it has been wiped away, or the truth of it has been withheld from us. In my research, I have found that after the fall of man, there was a group of angelic beings called the Watchers. This group of watchers were to guide men in righteousness, but being among men and taking on the form of men, and we do know that angels do that. They looked upon the daughters of men and lusted after them. These watchers had already given man the knowledge to create music, to build cities, to work metals, and in all of this they gave them mathematics and science and the understanding of the heavens. But in return for that knowledge, they required the daughters of men. And we have the Genesis 6 narrative, which gave rise to the giants and the demigods. My focus here is not on the giants or the men of renown or the heroes of old. That is another lesson altogether. My focus is on Solomon's warning. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. In the book of Jasher is something very significant. It speaks of advanced biogenetic technology. I use the book of Jasher not as scripture, but as a history book. This book is mentioned twice in the Bible by name. Is it not written in the book of Jasher, Joshua 10:13? And behold, it is written in the book of Jasher, 2 Samuel 1:18. The book of Jasher is a history book, so let's look at it, look at what it says. And their judges and rulers, the watchers, went to the daughters of men and took their wives by force from their husbands according to their choice. And the sons of men in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixture of animals of one species with another, in order therewith to provoke the Lord. And God saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways upon the earth, all men and all animals. Jasher 4:18. The genetic technology that we are doing today cannot be called a new thing. Solomon said it was done once before, as Jesus said, as it was in the days of Noah. For 969 years, the prophecy was given to a wicked and corrupt, both morally and genetically, world. The name Methuselah means, when I am dead, the judgment comes. So, if you were corrupted and unredeemable, what would you do to try to escape the judgment coming upon the earth? Well, you could possibly build underground bases, like we do today. You would possibly set up a seed vault to regrow the food stocks, like what we have done in Norway. Or perhaps you might want to get off the planet and go to another planet in the solar system or around a nearby star, like we are trying to do today. The ruins on the moon and Mars and other planets and the moons of the solar system are what's left of that judgment. God wiped clean the corruption of the earth. He also destroyed the survival colonies elsewhere so that the corruption would not return to the earth. Maybe if something survived on Mars or else or elsewhere, we should not go there so that that corruption would not come back. Thank you.